Well, Wilma, I'm sorry indeed to lose you. But I want you to know I couldn't be fonder of you if you were my own son. But, well, if you lose a son, it's possible to get another. There's only one Maltese Falcon.
We didn't exactly believe your story, Miss O'Shaughnessy. We believed you $200.
You mean that?
I mean, you paid us more than if you'd been telling us the truth and enough more to make it all right.
Be generous, Mr. Spade. You're brave. You're strong. You can spare me some of that courage and strength, surely. Help me, Mr. Spade. I need help so badly. I've no right to ask you. I know I haven't, but I do ask you. Help me.
You're a close-mouthed man?
Oh, I like to talk.
Better and better. I distrust a close-mouthed man. He generally picks the wrong time to talk and says the wrong things.
Well, if you get a good break, you'll be out at Tehachapi in 20 years, and you can come back to me then. I hope they don't hang you, Precious, for that sweet neck.
Hello, I'm film historian Tony Maeda.
And I'm Brad Shreve, who's just a guy who likes movies.
We discuss movies and television from Hollywood's golden age. We go behind the scenes and share our opinions, too.
And of course, being the average guy, my opinions are the ones that matter.
As does your self-delusion. Welcome to Going Hollywood.
What is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Tony, I have said time and time and time again that I hate comparing a movie to a book.
You have.
But sometimes I just can't avoid it. And this is one of those times we're talking about the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I think of the novel and I think of the movie and compare the stories and what they changed, do you want to know what really, really pisses me off about this movie?
Always.
Absolutely nothing. It's almost verbatim. When I read the book, I'm like,
it is.
This is kind of, it's like word for word. Just obviously little things. Little of the violence was toned down. Obviously the homosexuality was turned down. Not as dramatic as I'm, you know, if you got to be blind not to see it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much changed.
Well,
there wasn't much changed at all.
You know why that is? One of the reasons why that is?
Because it was a brilliant novel.
Because, well, it's a great novel, but it also made two not very great original films. And we'll get into this more when we talk about the history, the background. But there were two versions of the Maltese Falcon before this mythic, iconic version, and they didn't work. And Howard Hawks told John Huston, when he was considering doing this, just shoot the book. So that's why the film skews so closely to the book. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Absolutely. And just to get it out there, I'm sure I mentioned it the last time we talked about the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon.
When did we talk about the Maltese Falcon before?
We talked about noir, and I went off on a tangent.
Oh, yes,
okay.
yes.
So,
okay.
The novel The Maltese Falcon was not the first noir novel, but it is really the one that made it explode as a genre in the novels. This movie was not the first noir movie, but it's really the one that made a difference.
Yes, it really.
Dashiell Hammett deserves a big pat on the back.
Yes, I hate saying things are the first, because there's always one that's going to contradict you. So, and I'm try not to do that. Say this is the first, this is the best, whatever. This certainly set off the noir film genre. This film, because it's 1941, so it's very early in this whole period. And yes, it definitely set off the noir genre. But the previous two versions of the Maltese Falcon were not noir at all. And we'll talk about that.
Well, there's the problem right there. Yeah, you can't, like I said, it's not the first. It's the one that had the impact. The Wright brothers were not the first to fly. There were two guys up in the Northeast that
that's
had
right.
an airplane that flew. I don't know, a year or two before. I don't know, but historians say, but they didn't have an impact, so it doesn't matter. It's the Wright brothers that made the difference.
That's true. That's true. You know what? That's it exactly. This film was not the first, but it's certainly the best. It is
Yes.
certainly the best. And I want to say that I'm so happy you suggested this. First of all, I'm grateful. I'm glad that we're going back into the 40s because we've been hanging out as we always do. I love the 70s and 80s. We keep hanging out in the 70s and 80s. That's okay.
Yes.
But I was like so happy when you suggested, yes, I'm like, we got to go back because there's so many movies we need to talk about in the 30s, in the 40s. So thank you for that. And also, thank you for suggesting this because I had not seen this film in so long. And I forgot and pardon my expression, what a good fucking time this movie is. It is so much fun, this movie. Listener,
Yes.
if you haven't watched the Maltese Falcon in a few times and you have in a few years or something and you have an idea or you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it. It is a blast. These characters are a hoot. This movie's a hoot. That's what I would call it.
That is a great word for it. It is a hoot. It is a hoot.
It is.
And the reason I recommended it, I'm always heavy into noir. I'm perfectly happy. It's been on the list for a while. And again, it's not one of those that either of us poo-pooed. It just kept getting moved. And then when I edited, what was the episode that I edited?
Mildred Pierce.
When I edited Mildred Pierce and I was listening to the discussion about noir, I'm like, why the hell have we not done Maltese Falcon yet? And that's when I came to you and I said, we're doing it.
Yeah,
and I'm glad
pretty
we did.
mythic. Pretty mythic
Yes.
in
Yes.
Hollywood history. Because...
And one of my inspirations to be a mystery writer. So,
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
well, yeah.
That's cool.
That's why I love writing noir.
I'm having a little throaty issues here, which I think is kind of appropriate with noir. So again, if I sound a little sultry, it's just in keeping with the film, people. I'm just doing it to give you an added dimension to this film. But the Maltese Falcon, this version from Warner Brothers in 1941, and another reason why it is so iconic is it is the movie that finally, after years and years and years and years and years of toiling in the trenches, made Humphrey Bogart a star. Not only a star, but truly, if you look at those lists that those institutions put out, an icon. I think he's number one. Isn't he number one? He is number one as the biggest star in classic Hollywood because of this film and because of a little movie called Casablanca, which he followed this up with. So that's what's wonderful about this movie, is this really was the emergence of Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart had been toiling in films and theater for decades. They thought he had a comeback. He had his first breakout in The Petrified Forest, which was a play that he did on Broadway with Leslie Howard. And when they were making a film version of the Petrified Forest, Leslie Howard insisted that he play the part of Duke Mantee in The Petrified Forest. Warner Brothers did not want him, but Leslie Howard insisted. Bogart was so grateful that when he married Lauren Bacall, they named one of their children Leslie. But still, even after he did The Petrified Forest, he was still just doing character parts. He had only 2 years before this played a stable hand in Bette Davis's film Dark Victory. So he had not established himself. He was slowly. But this was the movie that truly, he exploded with this film. And he became a very, very big movie star.
Well, he is the Sam Spade, hand down. He
is.
He nailed it.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful.
He nailed
Sam
it.
Spade.
I'm going to talk about a terrible film. It's actually one that I've considered bringing up, but I haven't because it really is a bad film. But I keep watching it because I love the novel, and that is Fletch.
Yes.
I love the novel Fletch. I love Gregory MacDonald, the whole series. And so it's like I watch it all the time because they got so much right, but they also got so much wrong. But the one thing they got right was Chevy Chase was Fletch. Anybody that reads the book will say, man, they got Fletch. Anybody that reads the Maltese Falcon can look at Humphrey Bogart and say, wow, they got Spade.
No, it's great. Yeah, well, I mean that persona follows him to this day. Everything that we think about Humphrey Bogart is basically Sam Spade. I mean, it's also Rick in Casablanca. It's also these. That was the perfect fit for him. He couldn't figure out what suit to wear. None of these suits fit Humphrey Bogart, but when he put on the suit of Sam Spade, it fit him like a glove. And that's why he became the biggest, as I said, number one, I think, in those lists of the greatest film stars of all time. We also have some other great stars in this in this film, Brad. Do you want me to go through the cast, or do you want to run through this cast?
I'll let you go through, and I'll toss in my thoughts.
Okay. Second up, we have, second on the call sheet, we have Mary Astor as Ruth Wonderly, a.k.a. Bridget O'Shaughnessy, a.k.a. a bunch of other aliases. What do you know about Mary Astor, Brad? Anything?
I don't know a whole lot. I know she won an Oscar. I don't remember which film.
For The Great
I know
Lie.
She was very big in her time.
The Great Lie. This year. The same year as the Maltese Falcon. She won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. Yeah. Well, here's the really cool, interesting thing about Mary Astor. So Mary Astor started in silent film. She was as a teenager. And her acting career was kind of a little sporadic, up and down, up and down. And then what was really interesting about Mary Astor is she had herself a little personal scandal. Because right before this film came out, her career taken a nosedive because of her turbulent private life and the release of her private diaries. Now, you have to remember, this was the time when there were morality clauses in contracts of stars. And let's just say that Mary Astor's diaries pulled no punches on anybody, any of the many people she had affairs with. So it's kind of interesting. So this was a notorious scandal. But what's so wonderful about Mary Astor in this film is the part of Bridget is almost a parody of her real life. People were aware of these scandals. So, that tainted woman image that she had fit perfectly this character of Bridget, because she's beautiful, she's sweet, she's cunning, she's lethal. It's another example of, there were other actresses who were considered for this part, but it's another example of how a smart director, like John Huston certainly was, pads a character and gives us so much information about a character by casting the right person.
And he did very well. She was great. I like that she was the femme fatale in the sense that she was the helpless woman on the surface, but wasn't the femme fatale in the long run. She was a pretty strong cookie.
Oh, she was. My favorite moment in this whole film is when she kicks Peter Lorre. It is so unexpected and so funny. Out of the blue, she just kicks him. And that's when you realize, oh, this is not this innocent woman. She is a toughie. She is a tough cookie, this Bridget O'Shaughnessy. Yeah, absolutely.
And most femme fatales are not innocent, but they very frequently are portrayed as weak.
Right.
And she's not weak.
Right. Well, they fool people.
She's weak when she needs to be for manipulation purposes.
Right, exactly. She's a manipulator. She's a user.
Yep.
We have Gladys George as Iva Archer. We have the wonderful Peter Lorre as Joel Cairo. What do you want to tell me about Peter Lorre, Brad, in this movie?
It is so funny to me that they got away with what they got away with Peter Lorre. He is...
Yeah.
Just, listener, if you're not aware, in the novel, it's pretty clear that Cairo, Peter Lorre's character, is gay. And obviously with standards and practices, they could not do that. The code was in effect. They could not do that in the film, but they didn't hide it at all. I can't even remember the flower, for God's sakes. What did his business card smell like?
Gardenia.
I knew it started with a G. Okay, so it starts with, the secretary brings Spade the business card, and Spade smells it and says it smells like gardenia. And he and the secretary have a look, and you can tell right away.
Yeah.
Then he comes in.
And the music.
Yes.
You notice the music cue. The music is mincing, kind of delightful little music cue, which they're telling you, this character's a dandy. Stay tuned.
He is a dandy, and he walks in, and he's very prim and proper and takes off his gloves. He's very fastidious, is the right word that I'm looking for. Very fastidious. A little bit femme in the way he talks, and the way he fondles his umbrella handle. It just happens to brush across his lips.
That is the biggest clue of all. That is such a genius move that John Huston put in there. The way he fondles the handle of his umbrella, puts it up to his lips, purses his lips a little bit. Yeah, and Humphrey Bogart's attitude towards him is just, he's a sister. He's just, it's been made very clear that this is a gentleman of questionable sexuality, and they,
Yes.
it's the PCA. This is what they had to do, but it works. It works so much better than coming out and calling him, saying he's a fairy or something like that. It's so much better because it's so much more. It's just better. I can't think of the word right now, but it's just such a better. It doesn't. They don't beat you over the head with it. You get just enough to know who this character is.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you got this from the film. It's different than in the novel. In the film, I got the feeling they were very lightly implying that Cairo and Gutman were a couple.
Oh, I think
in some manner.
Yeah.
In the book, it's much more implied that Gutman and Wilmer Cook, are a couple.
Elisha Cook Jr. He was funny. I like. He is great. He is great. Elisha Cook Jr. as Wilmer Cook is one of the henchmen, one of Sidney Greenstreet's henchmen, probably the most violent one. And he does not like Humphrey Bogart. And they have some one. Remember the scene near the end where he's actually crying? Did you notice that? He's actually crying. He's so intense and he's so vociferous in his hatred for Humphrey Bogart. The actor actually has a tear. Now, they could have blown something in his eye to make that happen, but I think it was just from the intensity of his performance. He's a very underrated actor, Elisha Cook Jr. He does a wonderful job in this.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him, so.
He did a lot of character parts like this throughout the 40s.
Okay.
A lot of film noir. Lee Patrick, who we talked about just a little bit ago, in Mildred Pierce as Effie, who is Sam Spade's right hand, his girl Friday, his right hand. It does everything for him. He's, as we talked about, and we talked about Murder by Death and the parody of Peter Falk was doing of Sam Spade. And that was Tess Skeffington, who was played by the brilliant Eileen Brennan. So it's that secretary who's just a good Joe. She's a good guy. There is absolutely no sexual chemistry at all between them. She is his non-sexual life partner, basically. Effie is in this, and she's wonderful. She's wonderful in this. We have Ward Bond as Detective Tom Polhouse. And I think finally we have the incomparable Sidney Greenstreet as Casper Gutman. And I'm just going to let you tell the people about Sidney Greenstreet, Brad.
Well, Sidney Greenstreet was wonderful in this film, and you would never know that this was his film debut.
It was. He was so nervous.
Never know it.
He was so nervous that in some of those long speeches, Mary Astor was holding his hand off camera because he was so nervous about that. Sidney Greenstreet, yes, you're absolutely right. He was a theater actor. And this was his very, very first film. And you would not get that. He was 61 years old, and he weighed between 280 and 350 pounds. So he was
I think closer to 350.
Yes, he was a big, big man. And we have seen this type of character parodied. Now it's cliche. So you have to remember that this was the first time. This type of humongous, threatening, distinctive, intimidating character with these abrasive laugh and like big bulging eyes, and the way he spoke, he's very fastidious. He's very much like Peter Lorre. He's very fastidious, but he's a very, very large man. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the camera tricks that Huston did to make him appear even larger, even more imposing. But saying that, he's also kind of sweet. He's got a charm to him, Sidney Greenstreet, and that's what's so wonderful about that character. Don't you think so?
I do, and it's funny that he was so nervous because his character is so inflappable in this film.
He is. He plays it. He's like almost a dandy, kind of a villain, which you think is harmless, but in essence, no, he's lethal. And Sidney Greenstreet began an entire career playing this type of character with this film. So this film was indeed directed by John Huston. It was his very first directing effort, and he also wrote the screenplay.
Which also blows my mind that this was his first.
Yeah, exactly.
Right out the gate, the man was just amazing.
Well, I mean, he was a very, very celebrated screenwriter, and he wanted to direct. He'd written the screenplay for Jezebel, for a lot of incredible classic films, and he wanted to direct. He's also the son of Walter Huston, an iconic movie star in the early 30s who makes a cameo appearance, an uncredited cameo appearance in this movie, which we'll get to, which is so delicious. And I think we need to talk about the cinematography by Arthur Edison and Ernest Haller came in. And we talked about noir with Mildred Pierce and how important the cinematography is. Mm-hmm. Do you want to brush up on that a little bit about what noir does with the cinematography, which makes it so different and so important in telling a story like this?
Well, talking about as far as cinematography goes, it's uncomfortable. Lots of shadows, lots of sharp edges. The rooms, all the sets in this film are small. Yeah. They're almost they're cramped for film. I don't think there's a large scene that I can picture. Maybe a hotel lobby, as best that I can think of. The books have a feel that the movies have to do visually, and this movie did it, and subsequent movies did it as well.
Yeah. What the thing about film noir is the camera work, the shadows, the odd camera angles, the low lighting, the high contrast. It's a part of the storytelling. The style helps tell the story. It's a storytelling element. And it was also based on the German expressionistic films of the 20s and 30s. That's what they were doing in Germany at this time. And of course, when so many of the directors in Germany fled to get away from the Nazis, they ended up in Hollywood. And that influence naturally bled into the Hollywood films they were working on. And that's really how film noir, we talked about it being an offshoot of pulps, as we talked about in Mildred Pierce, but it really is a storytelling element. It helps tell the story, which is so wonderful about this film. You're right. The sets are very small, and you don't go outside. And if you are outside, you're on a soundstage. And it's pitch black, and it's almost always nighttime, because that is what film noir is doing. It's telling you the story. It's helping the director tell the story through this film. So, Brad, can you tell us a little bit? Can you give the people a rundown of the synopsis of Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon?
Absolutely. This is pretty quick and easy. Hopefully, as we always say, most of you know it anyway. Sam Spade is half of the PI agency of Spade and Archer, and it begins when he investigates the murder of his partner, Archer, who is murdered, and Sam is horribly distraught over this murder, beyond belief.
Oh, he's dead? Oh, okay.
Well, it's what... it's what he has to do. His partner dies, he has to do it.
But he's also sleeping with his wife. He's also sleeping with his ex-partner's wife. Yeah,
exactly. And the stage that was set up is a woman comes in and Ms. Wonderly, supposedly, to hire him for a case. And to make it very quick, it draws him into a hunt for the Maltese Falcon, which is a priceless jeweled statuette from hundreds of years ago, worth $1 million or so. And like any good noir film, everybody lies. Everybody's a suspect. Nobody is clean in any way, shape, or form, including the heroes, if there are such a thing.
Right.
And they manipulate each other. And in the end, Spade must decide, what does justice mean? Does it mean doing what is the right thing to do? Which is very noir. And as with
according
any noir,
according to his personal code, I think that's what's really important. There are no heroes here. There are no villains here. No good guys. No clean cut good guys, bad guys. Sam Spade is a problematic character. But he lives by his saving grace is he lives by his own personal moral code, which, includes sleeping with his partner's wife, but also means in the end doing the air quotes right thing.
Yep. And one thing I love about noir is you typically do not, but you're not guaranteed a happy ending. And that it's actually one of the downfalls of noir to me, because it usually is in novels and most short stories, it almost always is a dark ending, and nobody's ever happy in the end. And the reason I say it's one of the downfalls is I want to be surprised. I get really tired of happy endings. Hollywood really thinks you need to have a happy ending. Occasionally, like this film, you get where there's not necessarily a happy ending. Surprise me. Let me know. And I don't want to go too much in my own writing, because I don't want to try and compare myself to Dashiell Hammett in any way, shape, or form. But one thing I tell my readers, plain and clear, don't expect a happy ending, but don't expect a sad ending.
No.
Just be surprised.
Interesting.
I'm not going to promise anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
but people like romance novels because they want a happy ending, and that's perfectly okay. But that's not me.
I think this has, for first-time viewers, this doesn't have a happy ending, but I think it does have a surprise ending.
Yes. That is the happy ending.
Because we find out at the end that the Maltese Falcon, this bejeweled statue that these people have been searching for decades and decades. It goes back to the 16th century. We get a whole thing at the beginning of the film about what the Maltese Falcon is and where it came from and how it's been searched for years and years. It's mythic. And we find out at the end, it's nothing. That's it. These people have been searching for years for this mythic statue, of the Maltese Falcon, and it's nothing. And that's why this film has one of my very favorite last lines ever. I mean, it's right up there with his next film when he says the beginning of a beautiful friendship in Casablanca.
I want you to say it because you're going to be wrong like everybody else, but go ahead and say it.
Well, there is a reply to it. Okay, there's a reply to it afterwards, yes. But Bogart's last line is, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. And what is so brilliant about that last line, other than the fact it's incredibly poetic, is that it's giving you the theme of the Maltese Falcon. The theme of this movie is that people sacrifice everything in their life. They have one focus to get one thing, and it is frequently elusive and illusionary, and in the end is nothing. So what he's saying is, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. People are dreaming for this, and in the end, it turns out to be nothing. And that's life, folks. That's something we all do in life.
Yep, and there is an 80s song that I can't remember I can picture the artist that sang it, but I can't remember his name or the name of the song. But the line I always remember that reminds me of this is, aspirations are in the clouds, but hopes go down the drain.
Yeah, it's true. It's amazing.
Yeah, they are all chasing that shiny thing on the hill, and it's not even there.
False gods.
Yes.
Serving false gods, yes.
So I'm being very, very nitpicky only because I think it's funny, because Tony quoted what everybody quotes as the final line in this film, said by Sam Spade, when in reality the final line is by Lieutenant Dundee, whose response was,
yes.
Huh?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's just do that then. Let's just rewrite film history and say the great last line of the Maltese Falcon. Huh? There you go. But what I love about that last line is also the fact that, the stuff that dreams are made of, and is also the stuff of nightmares. Mm-hmm. Dreams can be nightmares. Yep. And that's what this movie is telling us. And what's really interesting is the Falcon is a MacGuffin. Really, before the MacGuffin was invented, the Falcon's a MacGuffin, because it serves no real purpose in this movie other than to expose the true natures of these people. That's all.
It hardly makes an appearance in the film.
Until the very, very end. And remind me to talk about the end of The Cheap Detective, which mirrors this, because it's hysterical. But anyway, it's a symbol. It's a symbol of unattainable love, of money, of power. It's all these things. And that's what's so incredible about this story that Dashiell Hammett crafted, and this film version of it. It tells you so much. It tells you so much.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this film. I love the fact that these people are all just almost destroying each other with the greed over this object, which turns out to be a whole lot of nothing. It's fantastic.
Yep. We also need to say that another thing that makes this film so noir is the lines. People in noir don't talk like real people, but they talk the way people should talk. And, one of my favorites is when Spade says to Miss O'Shaughnessy, Bridget. He says, we didn't believe your story. He's talking about him and Archer. We didn't believe your story, Miss O'Shaughnessy. We believed your $200.
Oh, cold, cold, cold.
And her favorite line, I was sketching these down because I was just loving them so much. My favorite line of hers is, I haven't lived a good life. I've been bad, worse than you could know.
Which plugs into the whole Mary Astor thing. That's why she was such a brilliant choice to play this part.
I was almost expecting her to say, I'm not bad, I was just drawn this way.
Yeah, it's just so it's so fascinating. So, Dashiell Hammett, he had actually worked as a private detective in San Francisco, and he used his birth name of Samuel for the story's protagonist, for Sam Spade. And I want to say that Sam Spade, because another one of these things which is just so famous it's become cliche, this was really the first kind of anti-hero detective. There had been anti-heroes in film before, Jimmy Cagney and Edward G. Robinson, but this was a romantic anti-hero. They weren't romantic, anti-heroes in Little Caesar and those movies they did in the 30s. Part of Bogart's appeal is his romanticism, his fatal romanticism. So what happened was Hammett was quarantined with tuberculosis when he wrote this novel, and it was originally serialized in 5 parts, and it was published in 1930. And Warner Brothers purchased the film rights immediately. And the first film adaptation of this book was in 1931, and it was called The Maltese Falcon. It starred Ricardo Cortez and Bebe Daniels, and what's important about this version is it was pre-code. So it included all of the lewder aspects of Hammett's book, including the overt sexuality, including the homosexual subtext and the loaded dialogue and the real meat of the Hammett novel. In fact, I think there was a scene, I got to confess, I've seen clips of the original Maltese Falcon, but I've never seen the whole thing. But I believe there's a scene where Spade strip searches Ruth Wonderly for the missing $1,000 bill. So, I mean, it's a pre-code film. It's fascinating. And what happened was that Warner's wanted to re-release the film in 1935, but guess what? The production code was being enforced, so they couldn't re-release it. So they decided to remake it. And in one of the oddest choices, they decided to remake it as a comedy. And they remade it as a film. Do you know this?
No, I knew there were 2 films. I did not know one of them was a comedy. That just stabbed me in the heart.
Yes.
But go ahead.
They remade the film as a comedy, a very loose remake, by the way.
Okay.
And the film was called Satan Met a Lady, and it stars Warren Williams and an actress you might have heard of that we have talked about on this podcast many times, Miss Ruth Elizabeth Davis. Yes, it starred Betty Davis and Warren Williams. And it was one of those long line of films that Davis made in her early career, which she called junk. And it is. She called this movie junk, and I've seen it, and it is junk. It's so silly to think they would kind of structure this as a comedy. It's nuts. You've never seen it, huh?
No, I have not. I haven't seen either the earlier 2, and I actually want to. I even want to see this one that you're talking about. I don't mind if it was done as a comedy as long as it was done like a farce. But I don't know. It bothers me to hear this. Yes,
it doesn't work. No. So they decided in 1941. Another remake was in store, and it was indeed crafted by screenwriter John Huston, who wanted it to be his directorial debut. And as I said, Howard Hawks told him, shoot the book, because the first 2 versions of this had been problematic. And everyone was like, why are you doing this movie again? It doesn't work. Why are you doing this story again? It doesn't work. And Howard Hawks said, just shoot the book. So John Huston, who, as I said before, had written Jezebel, Sergeant York, Juarez, he had just completed a film in 1941 called High Sierra, which really featured the breakout performance of Humphrey Bogart. Now, I said before that this film was really what made Humphrey Bogart a star. But High Sierra, right before this, was what he really got attention for, what really made people sit up and take notice. And he wanted to work with Humphrey Bogart again. However, the original choice to play this part, and in most of the parts that Humphrey Bogart made famous, the original choice was George Raft. Do you know anything about George Raft, Brad?
No, I'm going to admit that I don't. I know his name and I know I've seen him, but I don't know anything about him.
His most famous role is probably in Some Like It Hot, where he spoofs this kind of gangster character that he played in all these films in the 30s. He basically specialized in playing a gangster.
Okay.
And Humphrey Bogart owes his career to George Raft, because George Raft was so picky about his projects and the things he would do. He turned down High Sierra, Bogart got it, and it was his first splash. He turned down this part. Bogart got it, and it made him a big movie star. And then he turned down Casablanca.
Oh, wow.
And that film made Bogart an icon. So it's just so funny. Bogart truly does deserve, he needs to send, not only Leslie Howard a thank you for The Petrified Forest, but I hope he sent George Raft a lot of flowers, because he really, really owes his career to George Raft. But George Raft had it in his contract that he wouldn't do remakes. So he wasn't, and he didn't want to work with a first-time director, which John Huston was. And John Huston was thrilled because he wanted to work with Bogart anyway. So this worked out really, really well for them. And, since it was Huston's first film, and we talked about this, he made sure it was very tightly structured and very quickly shot. In fact, Hal Wallace, who produced this, told, during the filming, was looking at some rushes and told Huston that Bogart had to talk faster. Now, we were talking about the long speeches in this, and the monologues and the lines. Bogart has some of the longest monologues in this film, and he spits them out. It's just like a jumble of words. He gets them out. You understand what every word is. I'm not saying he doesn't.
Yep.
But he talks faster than I do. And you understand every single word he says. And this film is full of these kinds of speeches. And it also moves very fast. That's another important thing. So he was right. And Huston also did a wonderful thing, and that he shot the majority of this film in sequence. As we've said before, movies are not usually shot in sequence. You can film a part from the very end of the movie first up, and then you got to go back to the beginning of the movie, and then you'll shoot a movie in the middle. I think more so today, because of the fact that you have people with high salaries and you have locations you have to lock in. During the studio era, it wasn't that uncommon to shoot movies in sequence, but it was not common. And this is such a gift to an actor, because you're able to live the through line of your character as you're acting. You don't have to think, oh, how am I going to feel, 4 scenes after this scene? Oh, I got to get there emotionally. No, they're going along for the ride. And it really, really helps. And I think it's one of the reasons why these performances are so good and so much fun.
I would agree. I'm going to ask you an unfair question.
Uh-oh.
Maybe it's not unfair.
No, go ahead.
Do you think this is Bogart's best role?
No, I don't. I think his best role is The African Queen. I think
I was going to say the same thing.
He's the ultimate in The African Queen. However,
yes,
doesn't mean I don't love him as Sam Spade. How many times on this podcast do I say the damn word iconic? I say it all the time. I'm trying not to say it so much, folks, but I can't not say it with this. Sam Spade is an iconic character. When we think of Bogart, we usually think of Casablanca, but it's the same thing. Rick is just a second cousin to Sam Spade. And think about all the people that are in Sam Spade's shadow after Bogart, who tried to be Bogart. All the way up to Elliot Gould as Philip Marlowe. You can't not look to Sam Spade as an icon. Humphrey Bogart just had a lot of iconic characters. Once he hit, it was boom, 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 boom. The band rarely had a flop up until his premature death in 1957.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would say that. The last time I saw The African Queen, which was a number of years ago now, I was really disappointed that it wasn't as great of a film as I remembered. Maybe it was my mood, but I was in awe of he just shone in that film. I love him in this role. I absolutely love him in this role. But The African Queen, he knocked out of the park. Probably Casablanca, I tend to poo-poo Casablanca. I think it's a great film, but I think it's so overrated. I probably look at it with more disdain than it deserves. I don't really have disdain. I just don't think it's as premiere as everybody thinks it is. So it's with Bogart, it's this film and African Queen.
Yes, Casablanca is definitely the height of the romantic image of Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart he wasn't Cary Grant. Big surprise there. He was not a typical romantic leading man, and that's what's so brilliant about Humphrey Bogart is the fact that he became one. Yeah. He is just, come on. You can't get more romantic than Casablanca. And we'll always have Paris, and here's Looking at You, Kid, and all that stuff from Casablanca. Starts in this film. It starts in this movie. And, there's a reason why he's Humphrey Bogart. Absolutely.
And I was watching him in this film, and I'm like, this guy in his own way was a sex symbol to many, and he looks really tired.
Yeah.
As he should. But
part of his persona.
Yeah. Yeah, part of that whole mysterious persona that
world-weary, cynical, anti-hero. It's one of the reasons why the kids in the 60s, the counterculture, discovered him. Because because of what was happening in the 60s, and the disillusionment with everything and everybody, kind of like now. And the kids could relate. They're like, that's somebody we can relate to. He doesn't trust authority. He doesn't trust anybody. He's out for himself. Now that sounds kind of nihilistic, but still that's what they identified with. And that's really when he became, in the pantheon, Bogart, because of his rediscovery in the 60s by the counterculture and by these film kids who were just looking for something because they'd grown up on Leave It to Beaver and silly stuff like that. So as I said, the film was shot almost entirely in sequence. And some of the shots that Huston created with his cinematographers, when Sidney Greenstreet has a couple big monologues too. And I'm thinking about the one when Bogart comes to the hotel room, one of the first times, if not the first time we see Sidney Greenstreet. And he slips him the Mickey. And he tells this long story. And the way it's shot from below up. And Sidney Greenstreet fills the screen. And Bogart did that on purpose to make him even... Bogart did that. Huston did that on purpose to make him even more imposing and more intimidating. Even though what he's saying is not necessarily threatening, the image of him filling that screen and holding Mary Esther's hand out of camera range because he was so nervous, again... Part of film noir. It tells the story. We are being told by Huston, even though the things he's saying may not be intimidating, Huston is telling us by this style of filming, this is an imposing character. This is an intimidating character. This is somebody to watch out for. I love that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of so many just stand out.
Do you have any scenes that you want to talk about specifically that stand out to you?
Well, there are so many, it's really hard to pinpoint. But if there's one that does, it's because it's the culmination of everything that goes on and everything that we talked about. And that is when the Falcon arrives.
Oh, great.
It finally arrives. Everybody gathers around. It's like almost like Indiana Jones when they found the I was going to say the Holy Grail. You remember Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, don't you?
Yes. But I want to stop you for 1 second. Do you know who it was who played Captain Jacoby, who delivered the Falcon? Remember the Falcon? The Falcon is delivered and it's wrapped in newspaper and it's delivered by a man who has no lines and who dies?
Yes. I don't know who that was, though. No.
That was Walter Huston. That was Walter Huston. That was John Huston's father. That's his he has no lines. That's his cameo. I think he did that for his son's first movie, boy's first movie. Anyway,
well, that's really
I interrupted
awesome.
you. I just had to tell you that.
No, it's the I'm going to go from this scene to the next, which because they kind of carry over. This scene when there's that obsession, you can see the look on their eyes. They're practically drooling because it has arrived.
Yes.
But then it turns so quickly to when it opens up. And they're looking at this statue and it's just being held up and you can just see the look on their face. And then when Gutman starts carving into it to remove the surface, to expose the gold underneath, and he discovers it's a fake, and that that feel of elation turns to distress and anger and fury. And
yes.
Oh, it's so, you just feel it. I can't even explain it. It's the biggest anticlimax ever.
That final scene is almost a third of the film, and it involves every single major character. This is another brilliant thing about this story and the way this screenplay is crafted. Everybody comes together in the end. All these major characters, Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstreet, Mary Astor, they're all there, Humphrey Bogart. And what's so brilliant about that final scene is exactly it. They are so hyped up. They are almost, like you said, salivating. Finally, here it is, this thing we've been working for and striving for and cheating for and killing for all these years. Here it is. And it turns out to be nothing. It's so incredible. And all those things we talked about, the theme of this film earlier in the podcast, it's so, it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. And then he throws up Mary Astor as a sacrifice, and she has to go to jail. It's because she should. She committed murder. She murdered his partner. We find that out.
Murdered two people.
So yes, but that's his own personal code. I mean, that's the ambiguity of this man who was perfectly willing to go along with this whole thing with the Maltese Falcon. But when push comes to shove, I'm not taking the fall for you. But that's okay. I'm Sam Spade. I'm fine.
And the interesting thing is, if it was just Thursby, he would not have turned her in. But I don't think. Mm-hmm. But because it was his partner, it wasn't that he necessarily wanted to. There was an obligation.
There was.
As part of his moral code.
He has his own personal, strange moral code that he lives by. And that's what's so appealing about Sam Spade. I love that last scene, and I alluded a little bit to the cheap detective, which I want to talk about because I think it's so funny. But Brad, is there some things you want to say to the people at this point in the podcast? You usually do.
Yes, and actually, we're going to add a little more detail this time. As always, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the show, what you would like us to do as far as movies and TV shows in the future. You can do that by at the bottom of the show notes, or in the show notes, actually. I think it's at the top, is you can click on it, and it says text or leave a voicemail. You can text us, or as it says, leave a voicemail. If you leave a voicemail, we can actually play that here on the show. If you don't want us to, let us know. Otherwise, we will or may. And do that. And then also, we would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, because if you enjoy it, let other people know as well so that they may enjoy it too. And we've had a good number of text messages coming in with movie suggestions, as well as voicemail. And folks, we're going to get to you. We're going to actually, in an upcoming episode, we're going to address every one of those and even play them on the air.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of your suggestions and let you know our thoughts and maybe ask others to chime in.
I was so excited when I saw that we got that voicemail. I was like, somebody finally did it. Somebody finally did it. Yes, and it will be revealed in a later episode. How's that for a little tease for you? We will reveal it in a later episode. We're so grateful. I'm so excited by this, Brad. I'm encouraged at this point in my life. I'm encouraged. I might not have a Maltese Falcon in my life. Well, I have a couple Maltese Falcons, actually. Oh, God. Things just don't turn out the way you think they're going to. But anyway, what is turning out well is your responses and your enthusiasm. And that really is incredible. That's worth all the Maltese Falcons in the world.
And I want to talk about the enthusiasm, because I will say consistently over and over again, what we see in the reviews that we get and the comments that we get are people really enthused by the movies that we're doing and the discussions of them and our commentary on them, the differences that we have, and people that that may agree with Tony or may agree with me.
Yeah, it's so funny. Everyone usually says they like the information, but they usually agree with you.
Well, they say they have family members.
Family members who are just like Brad.
They listen because they agree with Tony, but they know people that agree with me.
A family full of Brads. That should be a fun Thanksgiving. A fun Thanksgiving. All right, so back to the Maltese Falcon. So as we said, released in 1941. Now, part of what Huston was doing, so this is why John Huston became John Huston. Because he said, I'm going to have a long directing career. He made this thing so cheaply and so tightly. The budget was under $400,000 for this film. it was
Crazy.
it was a studio film. But even for that, because it had no Bogart was making a splash, but he was not a big star. He had undiscovered talent here, Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstreet. He had an actress who had just come off a huge scandal, so she needed the work. So it was not a big budget film. And it made almost $2 million, which in 1941 is a pretty big chunk of change, I'll tell you right now. It was nominated for 3 Oscars. It didn't win any. It was nominated for Best Picture. Greenstreet was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and Huston was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. Mary Astor, as I said, was not nominated for this film, but she won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar that year for the film The Great Lie. So I think this film she had a pretty good year. And I think that this film has something to do with it. Just as an aside, you've asked me before, did Bette Davis have any female friends? Because she was such a hard ass. And Mary Astor, who she co-starred in The Great Lie with, was one of Bette Davis's good friends. So she had 2, Olivia de Havilland and Mary Astor. So I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of this film. The film made Humphrey Bogart a bona fide movie star. It may not have been the first, but it certainly started the whole film noir genre. And there have been countless of imitators and homages in the detective genre since this film, since 1941. Did you know, Brad, that in 2021 there was a miniseries called Monsieur Spade? Did you know that?
It doesn't ring a bell. No, I didn't know that. I know they've done Sam Spade over the years, but no, I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, it's set in 1963, and it tells the story of Sam Spade, who's played by Clive Owen, at 60, as an older gentleman in late middle age.
Interesting idea.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So life continues.
Yeah, that could be good.
But probably my favorite legacy of this movie is what we were talking about before. When Brad and I talked about Murder by Death last year, I said Peter Falk's Humphrey Bogart imitation is peerless. And it was so peerless that they thought we have to do another film just with Peter Falk. So Neil Simon wrote a film for Peter Falk called The Cheap Detective from 1977. And Falk plays Bogart, his Bogart character, through this entire film. His name is different in Cheap Detective, though. In The Cheap Detective, his name is now Lou Peckinpah. But the basic premise of The Cheap Detective is the Maltese Falcon and Casablanca. He puts them both together, so it's really fun. And the film dips into almost all of Bogart's films of the 40s, but mostly Falcon and Casablanca. And the reason I love it so much, Brad, is because the Mary Astor part is played by none other than goddess herself, Madeline Kahn. She is so funny. They take the duplicitous nature of Bridget O'Shaughnessy in The Cheap Detective and make her almost split personalities. She comes in different costumes. At one point, she's dressed like the character from The Corn is Green as Miss Moffat, and The Corn is Green. Another time, she's dressed like Dietrich. It's hysterical. But they do a spoof on that final scene where the Falcon is delivered, and this is the best part. So they're ripping off, just as in the Bogart movie, they're ripping off the paper of the Falcon, and they're just getting so greedy. They open it. And Madeline Kahn says, "Rip it, bite it off. I want to be beautiful. I want to be pretty. Hurry up before the stores close." It's great. Anyway, that's my little Cheap Detective riff. So that was a lot of fun.
I want to talk about the legacy real quick.
Please do.
Because another film that came out this year is Citizen Kane, and you and I both have shared our opinion that because continuously on many lists, Citizen Kane is listed as the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah,
and I don't want to get into that argument. Some people truly believe it, some don't. But if you want to talk about films that had a legacy, this film, you may not rate it as high, but this film started a whole genre. Now, maybe some would argue it was The Thin Man, but it wasn't. I don't think so.
No.
Thin Man was hugely popular. It was another Hammett story.
Right.
But it was the Maltese Falcon that really, really started that train of noir films and still carries today and is still mimicked today. I would say if you ask young people today, which do they know the Thin Man or the Maltese Falcon, most would have seen the Maltese Falcon. And I think that's probably true when it comes between this one and Citizen Kane.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
My opinion is this wins out big time.
I agree. I agree with you.
And one more thing about, I'm going to go to a novel because Red Harvest is another Dashiell Hammett film that was made little after this one, I believe. It's a bad film. There's never been a good rendition of it. It's actually one of Hammett's best novels, probably, I dare say, maybe better than this one. So read the novel. Do not base it on the film. I just had to get that out.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Well, I think that is the Maltese Falcon. It's amazing, Brad, that we got through this incredibly legendary film in under an hour. And it's even more amazing that we got through this podcast episode without me doing my Humphrey Bogart impression. But I'm not gonna,
you can never top Peter Brady.
I'm not going to do that for you, folks. There's only one thing left to say. So let's not say goodbye, Brad. Let's say pork chops and applesauce. That's so bad. I apologize, everybody.
Oh, no. Let's say goodbye, please, for the love of God.
Let's, please, for Christ's sake, say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
That's all, folks.
When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.